to life. And we all, I think, can't wait to see those images. And I think it's those images that reflect, again, another step in exploration. Right now, looking at the images of the Hubble Space Telescope, they take us billions of light years away across our universe to galaxies so far that right now we can only dream of ever visiting them. But that's really where it all began, is with a dream. The dream that started Mercury, Gemini, culminating in Apollo, taking us to the moon. My dream began when I was a 10-year-old boy living in a small town in central Illinois, going outside one warm July night and looking up at the moon and realizing there were humans there now walking on the moon. Now, 40 years later, we look back at that moon, remembering where we have been, and inspired by that effort and the journey that the Hubble telescope can take us on, dreaming of where we will go next. Thank you.
Astronaut surgeons, I love them. Like I said, we've got 13 crew members up there on the International Space Station. And no, they're not at the moon. You know, you say, well, they're not at the moon. They're like going around it. But there are people there who are inspired by the moon voyage. Expedition 20 crew wants us to know that they're inspired by the Apollo achievements and that legacy of exploration and discovery. Chief Science Officer and Flight Engineer Michael Barrett says they have a memento, kind of like a keepsake, to help keep them motivated. Let's roll that video.
Greetings to all of the distinguished guests in attendance. I'm Mike Barrett, NASA's flight engineer aboard the International Space Station. I'm part of the multinational Expedition 20 crew flying 220 miles above the Earth. For more than 3.5 billion years, this rock was on the moon. Then 40 years ago, Neil and Buzz picked it up and brought it back to Earth. It has spent the past 4 decades in the Lunar Sample Laboratory in Houston. In March, this rock was brought by the Space Shuttle Discovery here to the International Space Station, the first stop in America's return to the moon. It was brought here as a symbol of NASA's resolve to successfully carry out America's plan to build a new generation of spacecraft for a new generation of explorers. This rock will be returned to Earth later this year, and then displayed as a reminder to those working on our new spacecraft of what can be achieved with innovation and sheer will. This rock also will be displayed around the country to serve as a symbol for all Americans of the fortitude of our nation as we press forward in space. And when Americans return to the moon, a piece of this rock will go with them to be returned to its home. It's an important reminder that America's commitment to human exploration did not end with the 12 astronauts who walked on the lunar surface. Apollo was just the beginning. We're at a bold new threshold of exploration and discovery, and all of us who are part of NASA today are proud not only to honor the achievements of Apollo, but to be a part of the next important pioneering steps in humanity's ongoing journey to the stars.
I like this first word to us there. It was greetings. You know what's supposed to follow that, right? Greetings, Earthlings, right? That's but he didn't say it. I wanted him to. You know, inspiration reveals itself in a lot of ways. There's a moon rock in orbit adjacent to astronauts conducting their missions. I was born the same week that NASA was founded. So I feel NASA. We're kind of like, how you doing, NASA? You know, how's your gray hair coming along? How you doing? There's someone else my age who, in fact, we lost too soon, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, another sort of icon of our culture. I bring him up in this occasion only to say that we're the same age, so we're exposed to cultural forces at the same time, with the same force of influence on our lives. As you know, Michael Jackson was a great singer and a performer and a dancer. And so he performed this dance move. He could have called it, you know, the Jackson slide, with the floater steps, the ice glide. He could have called it anything, but he didn't. He called it the moonwalk, okay? That's what he did, all right? He called it the moonwalk. The moonwalk. I haven't checked Neil Armstrong to see if he could, like, do that. But the point of inspiration in our lives, it can come from anywhere. And space operates on us in our hearts and our souls and our minds and our creativity. It's not just the results of a science experiment. It's not just a rock. It's space embedded within our culture. A couple of things I noted as I reviewed the missions. For the longest while, there was the contest of who could build the tallest building. And you go back far enough, you get the pyramids. Pyramids were pretty tall. Do you know the next tallest building after the pyramids? Anybody know? The Eiffel Tower. That's how long it took to build something taller than the pyramids. You climb to the top, you're far away from Earth. Then we had the Mercury astronauts going into orbit. Then we had the Apollo astronauts going to the moon. Not all Apollo astronauts share the distance record from Earth. That goes to only one mission, Apollo 13. Because Apollo 13 went to the moon during apogee, when the moon in its elliptical orbit around the Earth was at its farthest from the Earth. That mission went to the moon at its farthest. We have Apollo 13 astronauts here in the audience. I have to publicly ask them, as you went the figure-8 journey around the moon, who was on the left side of the capsule? Because you've got the distance record from Earth as you swung around the back way. Another favorite of mine is, people say, you know, the first comments from the moon were, you know, tranquility base here, the eagle has landed. But the very first word from the moon, of the comments from the moon, Texans know, is Houston. First words from the moon in comments. Actually, the first words were contact light, but that's not interesting. All right? After that, they're planted down, they look around, they're safe. Houston, tranquility base here. The eagle has landed. The name of the next generation lunar module is Altair. If you know your constellations, Altair is the brightest star of the constellation Aquila, the eagle. There is method to this madness. Inspirations come from all sorts of things, but I think the one we all point most to is John Kennedy's words, spoken not only in the joint session of Congress in May 1961. Another brilliant speech he gave was in the Rice Stadium in Houston, Texas. Let's take a look at that clip.
Exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not. And it is one of the great adventures of all time. And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind in this race for space. Those who came before us made certain that this country rode the first waves of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power. And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it.
Not only do you want to be a part of it, you want to lead it. 5 years ago in this very building, NASA announced the creation of a special honor, the Ambassador of Exploration Award. This award is not